So I am
Okay.
Dr. Marsha, and I am but my podcast is called the 2.0 Grandma Podcast. And I will get into that and tell you all about how I got started with this and why and all of that. So welcome to the 2.0 Grandma Podcast. And this is where we talk to women who are in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond about living their, what I like to call their 2.0 selves. Okay. It's like a new
Okay.
version of a grandma. Because today's
Right.
grandma, in my opinion, are totally different of grandmas of the past. I always like to say, we are not your grandma's grandma. Okay. We
That
are
part.
different, honey. I have a friend who says this, and she's a grandma. She said, we hit totally different. Okay. So
Exactly.
we are out here being bold, living our best life, and we don't care who does not like it. As they say, unapologetically, we are living our best lives. And so I like to
Absolutely.
hear the stories about these grandmas because I have found that they are some phenomenal women out here doing all sorts of things. So I love to hear the stories. When I hear about what grandmas are doing, I said, oh my God, I need their stories. I want to hear those stories. So we've been doing podcasts, episodes, books about grandmas, capturing their stories. I would love to do that with you as well at a later
Okay.
time. But yeah, so that's what we're all about. And so we're about highlighting those stories for several reasons. One, we want the next generation to hear how bold grandmas are living their lives. Number two, we want other grandmas to hear that, guess what, girl, you can do the same thing or better. Top that, okay? How you like me
Right.
now, right? And we just want people to understand that we are not invisible.
Absolutely.
Because people tend to think that women at a certain age are invisible. We do not count. We can't even see you anymore, but that is not true. Okay, so it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Miss Vera Jackson Moore. And I was so excited to hear about you from your mom.
Mm.
I love your
Yeah.
mom. Oh my God, I love her. I love her spirit. She is so funny, and we'll talk about her a little bit, but I also want to hear about your grandkids,
Yes.
and about your purpose driven life that you have found for yourself that God has bestowed on you. And I think it's such a beautiful story, but I want others to hear about it as well. So,
Absolutely.
welcome, welcome,
Thank
welcome. And
you.
let's first talk about who Vera Jackson Moore is. And I want to hear about those grandkids, and then we'll get into all the rest. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So I just go by Vera Moore, but I
Okay.
use Jackson because I have some for-profit businesses that I like to use Jackson in based off of my grandparents. And
Okay.
that's a whole nother story. But I think that the reason I wanted to participate in this is because my granddaughter, which is my very first grandbaby, was the reason that I even put my feet on the ground and started this mission.
Oh,
In
wow.
2005, I was given a vision for Building True Beginnings, my nonprofit that assists formerly incarcerated women. I didn't know what I was supposed to do with it, but I
Mm.
did find out in 2012 that my life was supposed to be about something more than using drugs, being homeless, and being out on the street. And I wanted to give back. And I didn't want my granddaughter to see me in that light like my children
Mm.
did. So I made a
Hallelujah.
decision and I moved to Virginia and I stopped using drugs like right on the spot. I was like,
Mm.
okay, Journey, who's my granddaughter,
Mm.
she's not going to see me in this light,
Mm.
and I'm going to change my entire life. I just made a solid decision. And I
Wow.
tell the women that I work with, that's what everything in life is about, is making a solid decision and sticking with it. So I moved
Yes.
to Virginia and I fell in love with the country out
Mm.
there. Um, but of course, I'm not just a regular grandma. I don't make biscuits and cookies and
Hello.
many
Yeah.
I decided to start a business. I got
Okay.
bored one day and I had put Journey in school and I was sitting around the house and some kids was in the back, of my house and they were selling drugs and I was like, look, my granddaughter can't play outside if you guys are back here. So I need
Mm.
to move. And they told me that that was their area and they needed to make money because people with felonies couldn't get jobs. And so I put my feet on the ground and I made a bet with them. I said, I will help you get a job if you move to
Mm.
the area. And then so many things opened up for me in
That
that time
was
frame.
a bold move, Grandma. I
Yes,
love that.
absolutely. It was super bold. And one Sunday afternoon, this dude, he was like 6'3", 300 pounds. He knocked on our door in the middle of Sunday dinner. Now I did do that as a grandma. Sunday dinner, football on the TV, family sitting around. And my husband at the time opened the door, and this dude is standing there, and he's just bawling his eyes out. And he's so grateful that I found him a job, and that job came with a place for him to live, and that
Oh,
he could go visit
wow.
his son because now he had money in his pocket and he didn't have to think about going back to jail anymore.
Mm,
And when my husband closed the door, he said, "You need to get an office because this is just the beginning. There will be more."
mm,
And sure
mm.
enough, I wrote a book called The Ex Offender Toolkit, and I just incorporated my kids and my grandkids into building something better and greater than myself, assisting people that were on the road that I had decided to leave behind. And I think that's really, it really is, it boils down to me being a grandmother.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
in
mm,
2017, I was diagnosed with lung cancer, and I was like, even though I've done all of these things, I have nothing to leave behind. And you fill out your living will, and it's like, okay, this person gets the car, and this person gets a laptop, and you
mhm,
start thinking
mhm,
about your life on a larger scale. And even
mm,
though I was doing the business, I was putting all the money back into the business, and I wasn't doing anything for myself.
mhm.
So I made Journey, my granddaughter, my events person, and she always did our ticket sales and customer service. And that's what I could give back as a grandmother, teaching her
Yes,
business,
that's your legacy right there. Yes,
absolutely. So
yes.
So who am I? I'm a service-oriented grandmother who believes in the future and not the past. Like, I understand the
Mm,
past,
mm,
and
that's
I know that if
stop.
you don't know where you
Time out,
came
time
from,
out, time out, time out.
right?
Say that again. Say that again. People need to hear that. I believe
Yes,
in the
in the
future,
future.
not the past. Stop
Absolutely.
right there.
Absolutely. And we think, we understand
Mm,
that that your history, if you don't understand your history, you'll never know how not to repeat negative things. But because you understand it doesn't mean that you have to live in it. You don't have to
yes.
practice those traditions.
Ooh, mm,
Life is all about change and growing and moving forward. And now I have raised three entrepreneurs in my
mm,
family, and my granddaughter is one of them.
mm.
Just teaching them to take their own lives into their own hands, and not thinking about what the world has to give them, but what they can give to the
What they can
world.
do
And that's the
themselves.
purpose.
Hallelujah. Oh, that is
Yeah.
very powerful, Vera. That is so powerful. And the world that we live in today, let's just break it down even lower. The
Yes.
United States that we live in today.
Yes.
Okay, not
Hmm.
even the world, the United States that we live in today. You better have something for yourself. You
Absolutely.
cannot count on somebody else's job. You have to have something
Absolutely.
for yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love my mother so much, and she gave me such an amazing foundation. And so, what I give back to my mother is an understanding that the world she grew up in it no longer exists.
Exist.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Because of her background, she was like, you need to get a real job with a pension and this and that. And I'm explaining to her, like, that doesn't exist anymore. So you have to make your own way.
Yes,
And
you
so
do.
I've decided
Yes, you
to make
do.
my own way and not just make a way for me, but to make a way for my grandkids. And
There
that
you
is where
go.
I'm always living. I'm always
Hmm.
living in, oh, we're going to build this compound, and not just my family's going to have a compound, but formerly incarcerated women, when they come home, they'll still be able to raise their children and to have a place where they don't have to worry about being approved or disqualified for
Mm.
employment or housing. And that's what I'm building. And God has this vision. It's
That
such a
is
large charge on my life. It's so big.
that is so profound. I saw that on your website. I'm like, wow, that is so beautiful. And you know what? What I love about what you're doing and your vision is it also says no matter who you are, where you came from, your vision is your vision. It doesn't matter your education, your degree. None of that matters.
None of that
None of
matters.
that really matters. What matters
What
is what's in
really
your
matters in
heart.
life is if you have a heart for something,
Yes,
right?
that's it. What's in your heart. That's what matters. That's really what matters. And so until people understand that, and even, like you said, you try to impress upon your mom that, yeah, things are different today than what they were. And that's one of the things that I try to impress upon people about this whole grandma thing. It's like grandmas today are different. We're not trying to sit around and wait for our husbands to tell us what we need to do or society to tell us who we need to be. We want to be our own women. We know that we have to be able to take care of ourselves. I remember my
Absolutely.
own grandma. She was an entrepreneur. Here's what this woman did, and I really admire her for this. She was not well educated, right? I don't even know how far in school she went, to be quite honest with you. I don't know if she finished high school or not. I do not know that. I never asked her that. She never told me that, but I
Right.
do know she had her own business. I know that she was smart enough to, because, during that time, a lot of Black women worked in white women's houses and took care of their kids, right? I remember that as a little girl. And I remember her going to somewhere like Oklahoma and living with this family and taking care of their kids. I remember her coming back. When she came back, she saved her money. When she came back, she went down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. She was, today we would call it an apprentice. She was an apprentice for somebody for about a year. She did
Mm.
that. She studied under them, and I call it an apprentice. I don't know what she was calling it then, but she studied with them. And then she came back, and then she got her own place in South Carolina, got her own place where she had maybe about 6 to 10 rooms in that building. Downstairs, she had a restaurant, a kitchen where she cooked the food, and she had like a little convenience, like a little counter where she served, had convenient stuff like gum and chips
Right.
and stuff like that, right?
Right.
And she sold beer and wine and stuff, I guess. I don't know if there was liquor there. I don't remember that part, but there probably was. And then she had all of that in that building. And then she had her own place, and she ran that for years. And then there was a jukebox in there and people danced and all that. And then I remember going down there myself during the summers and working for her. She had us working in there, all the older kids, and like her grandkids. And that's where I learned to be an entrepreneur myself. That's where I learned my work ethic was from her. So I
Yes.
watched her as she did these things, and I watched her be a badass boss. Okay,
Right.
she was her own boss, and this was a single woman doing this. I remember when people tried to come in, tried to, oh no, she had her gun, and she would just say, oh no, you will not do. She had to take care of herself. She had to take care of, her building, her space. And I remember one time she ran some man out of there with a gun. I don't know what the man was doing or whatever. I didn't ask any questions, but she was in charge. Okay. And today, as people say, oh, she was the boss B, she was a boss B. Okay. And I was like,
Right.
whoa. She was not scared of anybody. She didn't act like she was afraid of anything. But I
Right.
watched her
Right.
do these things, right? And I was like, wow, and I remember the kind of woman that she was. And I was like, wow, when I grow up, I want to be like her. Because I admired the fact that she was bad like that she didn't take junk from
Yes.
anybody, but she was a single woman. She had her own place. Now, the one thing that I didn't like about her, she didn't pay us. We came down there to work, and she said, oh, I'm going to get your school clothes. And I was a slave for fashion. So I said, okay, I'm getting nice, pretty school clothes. So I was like, yeah, I'm down for that. But she didn't pay us yet. So we had to get another job, okay, to get money for clothes. So we had to work 2 jobs. We had to work for her and then work somewhere else down there on the beach in order to get our
Right.
clothes. But you know what that did for me? It gave me a good work ethic. I've never been afraid to work. Never been afraid to work. And
Exactly.
I've always worked
My
over 2 things in order to do that.
Yes, absolutely. My grandmother, single woman, barely educated, but she was a
Mm-hmm.
part of a team that built the first and the only free clinic on Potrero Hill in San Francisco. And I
Mm.
remember her making us go do community service and pass out gifts and things of that nature. Just watching her be of service in her community is what gave me my foundation. I don't think
Mm,
she ever locked her front door. I remember
mm.
sitting in the kitchen with her and somebody would just walk in and, they would like tap on the door and then she'd be like, come in, and they just walk right in. She always had a glass of water or a glass of sweet tea or a meal for someone in our community. And that really resonated in my heart. I love the acceptance of that. And
Mhm,
then of
mhm.
course my mom becoming a police officer and then working in the community in that perspective. But as you know, I took a different road and I ended up on drugs. I spent 15 years of my life in and out of incarceration, on and off of drugs. But the thing that made everything possible for me is that foundation. My
Mhm,
grandmother
mhm,
being no nonsense, my mother
mhm.
being no nonsense, and having parameters and boundaries and expectations of me. My mom used to say, "You can't go nowhere till you finish these flashcards," and I was like,
Right.
you know. And then you go to school, and now you getting all teased because everyone's, "Oh, you talk like a white girl," this and that,
Right, 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 right,
then as you grow up, you're like, you're just articulate, and it's just like, I
right.
know how to pronounce what I'm saying. And my mom gave that to me. And so I'm
Mhm,
so honored for
mhm,
that. And
mhm,
now
mhm.
putting that into to play to help someone else, because a lot of the women that we serve, they don't have that foundation. They don't
Right.
have education. They don't have a family dynamic that they can reach back to. And
Mhm,
so I'm that for them. And that's why I want
mhm,
to build this housing community, because my grandmother raised her kids in the projects. And what we people give the projects a bad name, but the one thing that I remember wholeheartedly about the projects was the sense of community, the
mm,
love that everyone had. People raised each other's kids.
mm,
And when we opened our first house, Divinity House, women had children in that house, and all the other women that didn't have kids rallied around that woman that
mm,
had kids. And then it
mhm,
became aunties and,
mhm,
and
mhm, mhm.
cousins and all of that within that home. And it branched out into our community. And so that ripple effect is what we need to get back to. And so that's why I'm
Yes,
building this housing
yes.
community. And I'm Blackity Black Black Black. So we named it Amanla Village, which means empowerment in Zulu. And it's
Mm,
just about bringing the women and their families together. So not just the women, right? Because women bring their men and women bring their
mhm,
kids. So it's
mhm.
about building strong whole families, which even though my grandmother was a single woman, she embraced that quality and allowed us to see our grandfather. And it was just all about wholeness. Everybody came together for Sunday dinner. Everybody came together to go to church. And it might have been because they was afraid of her, but it worked. And so I want to push that narrative too, right?
Right, right. Well, I think this is so beautiful that what you're doing. It's actually very incredible, and you started in Hampton. You
I
started in
did.
Hampton. Now, did you have a house in Hampton as well, or were you
I
doing the everything?
did.
Okay,
I had
wow.
several homes in Hampton, one in Hampton, or two in Hampton, and one in Newport News.
Oh, wow.
Um, and then my youngest daughter graduated from high school, and she
Mm-hmm.
decided to go to Phoenix, Arizona, and she was 17. So I
Oh,
couldn't allow her to move all the way across the country
uh-huh.
without me. So I negotiated with the people that own the homes and
Uh-huh.
allowed the women and men that were living in those homes to stay, so I could move and be at
Uh-huh.
least, close to my daughter, my youngest daughter.
Right.
And I
Okay.
brought my granddaughter and my other daughter with me. But
Mm-hmm.
they are still in Phoenix, and now my oldest and my son are here with me in Las
Okay.
Vegas.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. Now, how do you like Las Vegas?
In comparison, I'm originally from California. There's nothing like
Right.
that, right?
Yeah, I know that's
But
right.
in comparison, I believe that Las Vegas is so divided. I
Mm,
mean, in our culture, we're already divided. We have the politicians, we have the church people, we have the people that just want to mind their own business. But
mhm,
out here, it is evident, like it's
mhm,
obvious. And
mm,
and so what I like about Las Vegas is that it's small and
mhm,
intimate, What I don't like about Las Vegas is that I'm having a more of a difficult time bridging the gaps. You know, people think they know already, and you would think that reentry would have been frowned upon more in Virginia because it's so traditional, so Southern, the values, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
But here in Las Vegas, they're 10 years behind Virginia. So I
Oh,
came
wow.
out here with a lot of work to do. And it's not just about the rules and regulations that govern this state, but it's the mindset of the
The
people.
mindset of the people. Interesting. Very interesting. I wouldn't have thought that. Yeah.
I know. People think, oh, we're going to go to Las Vegas and it's going to be all this and
Yeah,
that. But
because of, Vegas. I mean,
yeah, no,
what
it's
happens
glitz
in
and
Vegas
glam.
stays in Vegas. No, but when you think about Vegas, you think it is a lot more progressive. And of course, I've been to Vegas, but there as a visitor, never to stay. I've stayed in California. My husband was in the military, and so we stayed in California. We stayed in San Diego, but that's a different perspective when you're a tourist and you're staying there just for a little while. While you're on tour for Navy. Totally
Yes.
different than being a native. But originally, I'm from North Carolina. Of course, that's totally different as well. And I did go to Hampton University for my master's degree, but that was a different perspective as well. But I'm a
Like
North
people are just
Carolina
different
girl.
everywhere.
Yes, I'm a North Carolina girl, born and bred mainly, and I've stayed there most of my life. Stayed some other places, New York and other places as well. But again, mainly East Coast. So that's totally different. And I find that no matter where you stay, every place is different, totally different. And
Absolutely.
the people are
Absolutely.
different and everything. And you have to kind of get oriented to that group and those folks. And yeah, and it can be challenging. It really can. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, do you see yourself coming back to this area, Hampton,
Um,
Newport News
I
area?
will. I absolutely will be headed back to Hampton, but it will be just to build a branch of what I'm doing
Mhm.
here.
Okay.
I believe wholeheartedly that God moved me to Las Vegas for a reason. I feel this
Mhm.
community needs me. We have
Mhm.
over 200 women coming home from
Oh
incarceration
wow.
every single month. So,
Ooh.
just tapping into assisting them with believing in themselves and
Mhm.
changing some of the laws that govern our state here, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
There's a movement happening right now where people that are formerly incarcerated, more people that are organization leaders are running for office, and that's way different than just regular political people running for office because they have a little money. These
Mhm.
people
Mhm.
know what they're facing with the system. So we've gotten one in already as an assemblyman, and then we have another
Mhm.
woman running. That she started an organization for cupcake girls, which is women that were being sex trafficked. So we're all
Mhm.
linking elbows to change the system out here. So God
Mhm.
has me here for a reason.
Oh
But a
wow.
Manla Village deserves to be everywhere, and I want to definitely put one in Virginia. Yeah, I
Oh
tried to get my
nice.
mama to move back here or move out here, but she like playing cards and being gorgeous grandma too much.
She is the queen, right?
Oh yeah, she told me all about that crown. I was like, that's pretty thick,
Yeah.
Gladys.
Yeah, she's a mess too. She's a mess. She's a
She
mess.
is, but
She
I'm
was
so
like, "Oh my
grateful
God,
that
I
you
couldn't
guys are in
believe when
her
they
life.
called my name." I'm like, "But Miss Gladys, look, when we were doing rehearsals, right? I don't care what song the DJ played, she glided out there, honey." I'm like, "Look at Miss Gladys." She was funny. She's so funny to me.
She
But she
is.
was just as smooth. I said, look at her. And it was so funny because I was like, wow. And I had no vote in it who was voted on or whatever. Because what we do is we get judges, outside judges to come in and vote on
Of
the
course.
contestants, right? And it was so funny. And I said, well, I was just as shocked as you are who was going to win. I had no idea who was going to win. I
I
I know
know.
when you guys know. And everybody's like, really? I said, really? I know when everybody else knows. I give them the
Yeah.
criteria. I say, you guys, do you have any questions about it? And then when it's time to vote, they watch them through the different scenes and everything. It's so funny. but they
Yeah.
all had such a good time, and it looked so beautiful. Oh my God, it
Yes,
looked
yes,
so
it
beautiful.
was.
Yeah.
And I think that that platform is one of the things that I miss out here
Hmm.
in Las Vegas,
Hmm.
just women coming together and celebrating one another in a way
Yes.
that doesn't require anything in return, right? It's not like,
Right.
oh, you're going to be gorgeous grandma, but then you got to give $500, right?
Right.
I was inducted into the National Coalition of 100 Black Women out here in Las Vegas, and I was like,
Hmm.
oh my God, this is so amazing. I love groups like that. I've always been a part of the NAACP, things like that,
Hmm.
and then they were like, oh, your dues are like $1,000, $1,500. I was like, oh, didn't nobody tell me that before I,
Right. Right.
decided that I was going to be a part
Right.
of it. I mean,
Right.
and I have
Right.
no problem paying that. It's
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
that
Tell
you
me
don't
that
get
up
to
front.
be anything special without dues,
Yes. 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 Yes.
and I want to create something like that. So I started the Formerly Incarcerated Women Mentorship Coalition, and
Mm.
it's 500 Black women coming together to support women that have been formerly
Mm.
incarcerated, and you get to apply to my organization for grants so that we can help
Mm.
you get your business off the ground, build your business in this community, so you can make an impact as you are being celebrated and mentoring the other women that we serve. So it's not about, oh, we need you to be a part of this and then give us all your money, but you be a part of this and then we want to help you build and
Mhm.
become
Mhm.
strong. Because
Mm.
during COVID, when Black women escalated the way that they did, and we just kind of was like, oh, we can't go to work, well, I'll make my own hustle. And that is our
Yep.
grandparents, that's our grandmothers teaching us how to be resourceful, how to bounce back, how to be resilient. And when I saw those statistics, I was like, absolutely, absolutely. So why can't we all just come together and save the
Yeah.
world? We don't need Donald
Yes.
Trump or Obama or anything. We just one woman, one family, one community at a time, and we can make things
Mhm.
happen.
Yes, we can.
So
I mean, we always have. I mean, that's how
always,
we've always survived. As a
absolutely.
culture, that's how we survive. We do things. We don't need anybody to nominate us to do stuff. We just do what we need to do because we need to do it. Okay? That's how we operate. And and we
Absolutely.
don't look to be
Absolutely.
nominated for anything. We just say, "Girl, this needs to be done." Like we were talking about, grandmas raising grandkids and that sort of thing. We're
Yes.
like, well, no, nobody ever said, oh, it's called kinship care. Oh, well, we just did it because it needed to be done.
Exactly.
you know, oh, you
Exactly.
get paid for it? Really? We didn't know that. Yeah, we just did it because it needed to be done. I don't want my
You're right.
grandbabies out there, somebody else trying to take care of them and then raping them and all. No, we don't want that. No, come on over here. Bring
Right.
those babies on over here and do, that's
Right.
how we
And
do
that's what
things.
my mom did for
Mm-hmm.
me, taking my
Mm-hmm.
kids in and raising them
Mm-hmm.
while I got myself together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's appreciative because now we're
Yes.
still a cohesive family. There was still
Yes.
some bumps and ups and downs, but we're still a family, and it ain't
Yes.
nothing we can't work through.
Exactly. And then you don't have to worry about them you don't have to worry about
Absolutely.
somebody doing something to them because people are crazy these days. Yeah. But let me ask you
Tell me
this now.
about it.
Every guest that I have on, I always ask them, how can Grandma's 2.0, how can we collaborate? Is there any way that we can collaborate? Because I saw you have employment, that's one of the things you focus on, education, and advocacy. What can we do in those three areas? Is there anything that we can do in those three areas? Now, um,
Absolutely. Advocacy.
okay,
Advocacy is extremely important.
okay,
Educating our women, the women that join the Grandmothers 2.0,
hmm,
it's really important that they understand or they have some sort of education in regards to what's happening with the world where incarceration is concerned, right? Because
okay,
I'll say this and I'll try and make it really brief and tell you why advocacy
okay,
is so important. Back in 1962, when they gave us welfare, and then they took the welfare away from women that had men in the homes. They did that to separate Black women from Black men. Then the war on drugs hit in the 70s, and they did that to incarcerate Black men at high volumes,
Mhm,
right? And
mhm,
then
mhm,
once they did that, now they went after the Black women, because all we were trying to do was survive without having the Black men in the home, knowing we weren't going
mhm,
to get paid as much, knowing that
mhm,
that our structure was going to be different, we were less than, and then all of these things came into consideration. So as of 1990, as of the 80s and the 90s, Black women have been, well, women have been going to prison 700 times
mhm,
more than they have ever done before in the world. So now
mhm,
we have women being incarcerated because the goal is to put children in the system. And then those children being in the system is what feeds this prison pipeline, which
mm,
is free slavery, right? So when we think about advocacy, I'm not asking you to stomp the yard and hold a picket sign. What I'm saying is it's all about education, getting women prepared and ready to vote, educating them on what they are voting for so they
mm,
know what they're really facing, because a lot of us
mhm.
don't believe that the vote count or our vote counts,
Right.
or we don't know what we're voting for because the language is written in a way to bamboozle us.
Yes.
So when you think about doing things and partnering, collaborating with True Beginnings, I think about advocacy because that's an easy way that we can stretch across the world. And I can come out and educate. We can do platforms on Zoom or what have you. Just when there's, like, you guys just made some real amazing moves out there in Virginia. I want to be piggybacking on that here in Las Vegas, making sure that blue is blue is blue is blue, and that
Mhm,
it's
mhm.
not blue with a hint of red, and and making sure that the Democrats hold to their word and that they are not siding with the Republicans because they just ready to get it
Get
over with.
in.
Right,
Mhm,
exactly.
mhm,
So
mhm,
advocacy is amazing, but the other thing that we can do is I have a lot of women between the ages of 43 and 65 that come through our program that need a support network such as 2.0 Grandma,
mhm,
because they've either raised their grandkids or they are now grandmothers because they became grandmothers while they were incarcerated, and they just need, to know that they're not forgotten. Because
mhm,
listen, when you go out and you do things and you ruin your life, you're already holding that guilt inside,
mhm.
that shame.
Are there
And
a lot
so
of
when
grandmas that are incarcerated?
yeah, there's a
Really?
lot of women that are incarcerated. 84% of the
This
women that are
happening with
incarcerated
women?
are mothers. So if you think that if 84% of the women that are incarcerated are mothers, what's the percentage of them that are
They're
grandmothers
grandmothers. Oh
if
my goodness.
37% of those women are over the age of 40?
Ooh. Mm. I hadn't even thought about that. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Mm,
So I'm lucky, right, that when I became a grandmother, I changed my mind. But there's a lot
mm.
of women that they become grandmothers while they're incarcerated because they're doing 8, 9,
Right.
10 years. There's
Oh
a
my
lot of women that
God.
became grandmothers, and it changed their whole perspective on things. And so they hustled and left the mom at home in order to take care of the baby, and then they end up incarcerated. But there's a whole introspective. So collaboration, let me educate you guys so that you can support the
Yes.
women that we work with, so we can all come together and not
Yes.
look down on or, sideways at each other.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, so we have a meeting on the 14th. I will bring that up, and we
Okay.
will talk about what we can do. And I think the first step is just becoming aware.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah,
it. The
first
first
step
step
is just
is
becoming aware.
awareness.
Yeah, because like I didn't even think about that. When I started doing this work about Grandma's 2.0, my first thing was about, just like I said, not grandmas being. I just said grandmas are invisible out here. Let's make ourselves visible. Let's do something. Let's be
Yes.
bold. That was my first thing. Then it led to about being well in all these different areas, these different dimensions of wellness. Then that led to getting stories about from grandmas about things they were doing. Then that led to the gorgeous grandma. So it just kind of kept taking on a different life, a different, different direction. And then as I was talking to people, like one grandma said, "Yeah, I'm raising my grandkids," and I'm like, "Oh my God, wonder how many there are of those," And then I started, thinking about that and how can we help them. And so then we started doing some fundraising for grandmas who are raising their grandkids. So just kind of, like I said, now it's starting to take on a whole life of itself. And now
Absolutely.
this. So yeah, as I explore,
So
as I
think
learn.
about that.
Oh
Why are the grandmothers raising their grandkids?
my,
Because
mhm.
the parent is incarcerated or
Yeah,
addicted to
that is
drugs,
one of the
right?
main reasons that I found. Yes.
Education, right? So we have
Mhm,
to educate
mhm.
and support those grandmothers that are
Yes,
raising the kids while
yes,
their loved one, their child is incarcerated. They want to
yes.
be involved, and what's the best way to do that? And
Mhm.
when their family member comes home, what's the best way to
Yeah,
handle that? So yeah, let's
right.
work together, and so we can
Yes.
mend and heal our community, so we can
Mhm,
create legacies where the numbers are going down, right? And
mhm,
on the
mhm.
negative side and up on the positive side.
Yes, definitely. Wow, it has been enlightening. And I want to make sure that we stay in touch. So, one of the things that your mom wants to do, and she said this several times, we had our kind of a brainstorming meeting about 2 weeks ago. And she said that she really wants to talk to those grandmas and get some peer support for those grandmas who are raising their grandkids, because she said that was one of the things that she was missing when she was doing that. And she is
Yes.
really adamant about that. That is her campaign. She wants to do it.
Mhm.
And so she's been exploring that, trying to figure out who is the person, locally who's doing that. And so, everybody's, like I said, trying to think about things they want to do and things they want to focus on. And so when we're meeting on the 14th, and I will bring this up as well. And then so we're going to adopt some things that we want to do for our group. And
Yeah.
so I would definitely bring this up, and we can do we do a Zoom meeting, like every other meeting will be a Zoom. And so we want to have some webinars where we'll do one on awareness about this, just get other people to thinking about. Because again, there's some things we don't even think about, that are a part of our community and part of who we are as a grandma. There's a
Yes.
population, a subpopulation of us that we didn't even think about. So that,
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's
Absolutely.
important for us to really think about that. So yeah, we would definitely stay in touch and just let folks know how they can get in touch with you. They want to donate, they want to know more about you and what you're doing. So please share that information.
So if they'd like more information in regards to our organization, they can visit truebeginningslv.org. That's TRUE beginnings L for Las Vegas, or LV.org. And then they can reach out to me at I'm in at truebeginningslv.org. The best way is look us up on Facebook, look us up on Instagram, True Beginnings. We are definitely out there stomping the yard, and we welcome everyone's participation. If you want to know what we really, really need, is we just need your support. Chime in on our like our pages and our posts, and then just let us know that you're there to support in any way. And if you can help by educating or providing support to a woman that is coming home from incarceration or want to be a pen pal, let us know, because we'll definitely match you.
Oh, that's a great idea too. The pen pal. Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Are you on Instagram?
I am. I'm on Instagram. I, Vera Moore, or V Jackson Moore, am on LinkedIn, and we're definitely on Facebook.
Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. And what about a YouTube channel?
I have a YouTube channel,
Mhm.
and it is under True Beginnings. It
Okay.
has some videos on there, a lot of things that we've done. You can definitely look those up. I'm not a content creator. We just hired one,
Oh,
but
great. Great,
there's
great,
still
great.
some videos
Mhm.
on there that kind of give you some understanding of what we've done. There in Hampton is one of our very
Mhm.
first ones. We had our resource fair, and then some
Mhm.
things that we've done past that here in Las Vegas. So um,
Okay.
it's, let me tell you, social media is a lot. You really want to just do the job. You know, like
Yes.
my grandmother just baked the cake. And when I
Right.
come and bake the cake, now I got to set up a camera and bake the cake and then
I
explain
know,
what
right?
ingredients go in there. It's just too much for me.
Right.
So,
Right.
but we
But you
are
know,
on social media.
these universities and these high schools have these students interns that you can get to help, because
Hmm.
that's what I do, and they're free. In other words, you don't pay them, but they pay them, and you can get some of those. So that might be a good resource for you.
Girl, look, out here in Las Vegas, interns are not free. They expect to get
Well,
paid.
no, I'll send you some information or
Yes,
some
that
free
would be
resources.
amazing.
Okay, I will send that
Thank
to
you
you.
so very much, love.
All right. Thank you, and have a great day. All right,
Yeah,
we'll be back in touch.
my pleasure. You do the
Okay.
same.
Bye bye.
Okay, bye bye.